Today on the meal prep series, we're making garlic butter steak bites. As you can see in front of me, there aren't many ingredients to this. It is a nice simple dish. And what I have here is 1.25 kilos or 2.7 pounds of rump steak, or any lean steak of your choice. And all we're going to do with this is trim off any excess fat and then just dice these into nice large pieces. What I've done is sliced with the grain, then rotated it and sliced across the grain just to break up that muscle fiber and make it really nice and tender. As for the potatoes, I've got 1.5 kilos or 3.3 pounds of washed baby potatoes. I've left the skin on for extra nutrition. You can remove it if you wanted to, but it does taste better with the skin on. And all we have to do with these is just slice them in half. If they are really big, you might have to slice them into quarters, but just pretty much make sure they're the same size. That way they can cook at the same rate. Now for the herbie potatoes, we're going to need 2 grams of dill, 2 grams of thyme and 2 grams of flat leaf parsley that's just been roughly chopped. If your thyme has woody stems, you might have to pick off the leaves, but just make sure there is no large leaves or stems in that. And then for the remaining ingredients on that, we're going to need some butter, a little bit of roasted garlic that I have a separate video for if you're interested in that, and then a couple of chili flakes, which are optional. As for the garlic butter steak, I do have some butter and garlic, obviously. With the garlic, I've just ran this along a microplane to create a paste. You can also chop it up or even thinly slice it, but you do get a better flavor from the grated garlic. Then we're going to finish this off with some sriracha mayo. You can use any sort of hot sauce or any sauce of your choice. And other than that, let's get straight into it.
Now what we can do is place a large pot of cold water onto our stovetop, add in the potatoes, just make sure they're covered by about an inch, lightly season it with salt, and then we're going to bring this up to a boil. And the reason we put them in cold water first is that way they can all come up to the same temp at the same time and all cook at the same rate. With this over a high heat and at a boil, we're going to cook these for about 15 minutes, just until they're fork tender, and we can leave these to go in the background. Now in the meantime, place a large steak pan over a medium-high heat, get this nice and hot, then we can add in 1 tablespoon or 20 milliliters of grapeseed oil, add in the steak bites, just do this in batches, we don't want to overcrowd the pan, and spread them out so they're not sitting on top of one another. Season to taste with salt, and then we can also hit out with cracked black pepper, 20 grams worth. And I recommend letting this sit for about 30 seconds just to form that crust all over the steak. We can then just mix this around. We're going to cook this for about 2.5 minutes, just until the steak's about rare at this point. We will be bringing it off and it will continue to cook, so we don't worry about that. And if you like your steak cooked a little bit more, of course, cook it further. Once you have that done, place the pan back over that medium-high heat and repeat with any remaining batches. And then once the steak is done and just resting to the side, place it back over a medium-high heat again. And this time we're going to add in 2 tablespoons or 28 grams of unsalted butter, give it a mix through and allow it to start sizzling. And this is also going to pick up the flavors left in the pan. Then we can add in the garlic that we grated at the beginning and just stir this through and cook it for about 1 minute just to get that infusion within the pan. Once the garlic butter's made, we can then add the steak in along with any resting juices. Just mix this all together and cook it for about 1 minute. We just want that sauce to get coated all over the steak. Then this can be removed. And these are the macros for the garlic butter steak. Now after 15 minutes on the potatoes, they should be fork tender. Just make sure you check them throughout the cooking of the steak as well, because all potatoes are different and can cook at different times. Then we can remove these and drain them through a colander. Add the potatoes into a large mixing bowl and add in 2 tablespoons or 28 grams of melted unsalted butter. You can lower the amount to reduce the fat content within this, but trust me, it is absolutely delicious. Then add in the parsley, thyme and dill that we chopped up at the beginning. Chili flakes, which are optional. I ended up using about 1 teaspoon or 1.5 grams. If you're using the roasted garlic, which I do have another video for, just make sure you squeeze in 1/2 of that. This adds beautiful flavor and infusion. And then just season to taste with salt and cracked black pepper, 10 cracks worth. Give this all a really good mix through with a spatula. Just be gentle with it, try not to break up the potatoes and keep them whole. These are then done and we can start serving up. And just before we do that, this right here is the macro card for the herbie potatoes. Now throughout the video on those macro cards, I've included metric and imperial weights for the serving sizes. Just portion this all out between 5 750 milliliter meal prep containers. These are from Lovelli and I have a link in the description if you're interested. They are beautiful containers. And be sure when serving this up to pour over any of the steak juices as well, it's extra flavor. And to finish them off, I'm just hitting them up with some sriracha mayo. You can use any hot sauce of your choice. But what we're left with is these garlic butter steak bites meal prep. They smell and look fantastic. And this is the complete dish macros, including the complete serving size.
Now once you have all of these in the containers, we can place the lid on. These will last up to 4 days in the fridge and up to 4 months in the freezer. For reheating, you can place them in the microwave or put them back in a pan. The potatoes are perfectly fine cold, but the steak does definitely need to be reheated. Now the only thing that is left to do is, of course, we can then dig in.